Hello, it's me, Annalisa, with my spiritual friend. I am back. This is just going to be a spiritual chat on manifesting today. I meant to do it yesterday, but it was the first day of school. My whole day got discombobulated. So it's Friday. We're going to do the chat on Friday. Just a few quick tips. Who am I? What am I? I'm a psychic medium. I'm a spiritualist reverend. I'm a mother. I'm a friend. I'm a wife. And I love manifesting. I think it's fantastic. And I think if you can figure out how you consciously manifest things rather than just sort of like letting stuff happen to you all the time and wondering, why do all these things happen to me? Then it makes your life so much better. I do offer private readings. You can go to my website, and the links are all listed below. I'm on Instagram, links are below. I just started a psychic development circle. Um, it just started this one started in September last week. If you or this week, if you are interested in joining a circle, you can email me. I do currently have a wait list. So if I have enough people on the wait list, I can open up another circle if you want. I am pretty flexible. Um, I don't know what else. So, okay, so let's get started with this talk. What I wanted to talk about today, um, sorry, I just saw a notification from my kid's school. That's what it is to be a mom or caregiver, because it's not always the mom who does it. So, I have been looking at, and I took a while to get to this talk in particular. I've been looking at manifesting and where my own belief systems come from and why I would have self-worth issues and my self-concept was kind of meh. Um, and I think a great start, I always talk about on my channel, a great place to start is the affirmations, the sleep affirmations that Dylan James has. They're really great to sleep to. There's some little things that you need to do in order to get over the humps of like being able to do it, but it's a really great place to start with, especially with changing your self-concept. But I sort of wanted to dig deeper and to understand, well, where did those come from initially? Where did all of those beliefs come from? And a lot of them come from our welcome, our family and our friends when we're little. They say that you are a sponge from birth until about 5 years old, and you're sort of just absorbing how the world works, how you fit into it, what you're supposed to do, and beliefs and everything else. That's why they say things like, kids aren't born racist. They're just not. They learn it from somewhere. And that's where the collective comes in. So I've been looking at my own self-concept and what I believe about myself. And the universe sort of pointed out this really interesting thing for me. So it may seem like it's for women, but I really think men and other people, if you're non-binary, could benefit from it too, because you'll understand sort of some interactions and then maybe take this and apply it to your own life and why people think and believe the way they do. So I was looking at self-worth, and I see a lot of women my age and a lot of friends my age who often talk about having imposter syndrome until they're well into their 40s, that they didn't feel that they were qualified or had the place to step up and speak, or own their space until they were in their 40s because they felt like they needed to have 20 years under their belt or 89,000 degrees, um, in order to say, well, I'm finally qualified. And we often see that men don't have this. And this is just observational. I'm sure there's statistics and studies somewhere. I haven't looked them up. This is just observational. So I started noticing, and this was something funny, and I went, that's interesting. I was in a store buying bagels with my daughters, and I let my kids dress themselves. I don't really care if they match. I don't care if their hair is a little messy. I let them try and figure out the world on their own and do their own thing. So they all sort of have their own style and their own dress. And a woman commented, well, they dressed themselves this morning. I said, yeah, they did. Because also, why should I stop them from being able to express themselves? And who am I to like, I don't know, it makes my life easier, right? I don't fight it. So this woman said, "Oh, I guess they dress themselves." And I said, "Yeah, they do." And then I said, "I have another daughter at home too. Let's just kind of let them do their own thing." And she goes, "Oh, 3 girls. That's awful. Well, do you at least have a pet that's a boy to offset it?" I said, nope, we have a girl bunny. We're all about girl power. And what I realized in that moment was, one, she must have difficulties with her own children. And then I look at from the manifesting standpoint of the everybody is you pushed out. And I thought, well, what is she creating in her life and what difficulties and how does she feel about herself? And I also thought, like, what a strange belief system we have. And so it sort of set me off into this spiral of um, where that comes from. And you'll often hear, especially as women, I don't know if you hear this, but women are catty and bitchy. Working with all women is really hard. Women are awful. Women treat each other terribly. You hear it about girls. You hear this in young, age. It's they're gossipy, they're mean. Well, where does this come from? When people say, "Oh, poor you, you have all daughters." When I asked my guides about that specifically, they said, "Well, there used to be this idea of dowries. And so if you had all daughters, you were giving your money away versus if you had sons, you got to keep your wealth." Okay, so that's one place where it starts way long ago. But it keeps getting perpetuated, right? All these collective beliefs get perpetuated. And so I know as a child, I grew up with in a group of three girls, and you would hear that too. Like, it's hard having girls, girls are difficult. I was afraid of having daughters because I kept hearing this over and over and over again. Hi, Rosemary. I was afraid of being a mother to daughters because I thought this is going to be the worst or the hardest or whatever. I love having my kids. And what I realized through talking to friends and everything else is that it's not just girls that have fights and disagreements and arguments. Boys do it too. Boys throw tantrums too. Boys have emotional outbursts too, especially now when you're seeing that we're saying like boys are allowed to have emotions. Emotions are safe. Like, let's start um, embracing that. So these collective beliefs are kind of interesting to me because I personally grew up with a concept of feeling like I needed to like behave a certain way, or I was too difficult, or I was too emotional, I was too sensitive. And I am emotional. I have a lot of water in my chart, and I am really sensitive, and it allows me to do what I do. Um, so I started looking at like when people say this, where I'm like, no, that's not my belief, and I'm kind of encouraging other women to do this too. Stop saying women are difficult. Stop saying women are catty and bitchy. Stop saying that all women are hard to work with. You're creating that. Here's an example of it. I didn't have a great self-concept, and when I first went into nursing, the floor I worked on was, postpartum, antepartum, GYN surgical. Patients were all women except for the babies, but I didn't they had nurses that were just for the babies. But all of my patients were women. All of the women I worked with were women. It was an all-female staff. They didn't have any males on that staff. That was their policy in that area. And it was interesting. I had one nurse tell me I was gonna be a great wife, but a terrible mother. And then another nurse, and these were veteran nurses, another nurse tell me I was gonna be a great mother, but a terrible wife. These were all concepts coming from me about my fear about who I was gonna be when I got married and when I had children. But it also perpetuated this idea that women were really hard to work with. Women were catty and bitchy. I grew up being friends with all guys. I mean, I had some girlfriends, but I grew up kind of hanging out with a lot of guys. And hello, seashells. And what I learned from watching guys and the way they interact, yeah, there's like yeah, they just get in a fight and punch. So violence is better than emotion. But I actually learned that a lot of those guys were really gossipy and kind of catty themselves. Men can be just as gossipy. They might do it a little differently, but they can be just as gossipy. Okay, so we see that it's not all women, it's not all men, but men and women can both be these ways. I just encourage you to really look at these things, to look at where this all comes from, to see that then when you're rebuilding your self-concept and then you constantly hear that, it gets reinforced that your value and your worth as a woman or as a person, or the way you perceive if you're not a female, the way you perceive or don't identify as female, the way you perceive women to be. Um, I wrote down notes because I want to make sure I'm going into this. I'm not just rambling forever. So the statements that we have were these statements of absolutes of always and never. And what I actually when I really like started observing and thinking about, well, let me think about because I was a nurse, I worked in heavily female areas. Only in the ER did I really work with any men. Um, and I thought most of the women weren't really mean or difficult or eat your young. Some of them did, but most of them were, you go to them and ask for help, and they'll help you. I had my own stuff where I had a hard time asking for help. Good morning. Um, but when I really looked at it and thought about it, but I still had this belief like it's hard to work with women. It's terrible to work with women. Or if a woman was more direct and less like, oh, would you mind? And just said, like, hey, you got to do this, or people will perceive that as being bossy or rude or bitchy. Well, no, because if a man said that, you wouldn't think anything of it. You'd be like, oh, okay, done. So just start looking at the way the world is and observing, because that's really where, when you're manifesting, things start to change. You start to recognize the under stuff. So I don't want to say like, none of the other people, this is the best way, this is the best technique. I think there's all different kinds of ways to manifest. For me, I like listening to the affirmations. I like having a daily, I like how Dylan James does it, how he says, like, have a daily routine. Like, if you get into a thing, say your affirmations. I like sitting down and writing affirmations. I do affirmations with my kids at night before they go to bed, and I find that it makes my heart space feel really great. So for me, I enjoy that. It brings me happiness. And so I like to do it, but you don't have to do it. You can just do the sleep dreams if that works for you, or the sleeping meditations if that works for you. But the other thing that I really like doing, and I found has like really clicked me out of being blocked really easily, is when I understand where the underlying thing comes from. I usually just ask my guides and start observing. It always starts with observation, right? And so I observed, like I said, that kind of came up, like, because I started asking my guides, like, where does all this come from? And I promise you, when you present a question to the universe, they will bring you the answers. You just have to look for the signs of the repeating information coming up, things like that. That's where I love my psychic abilities coming in to help me, because I'm really aware of that. That's why I still believe in readings, and I still believe in manifesting, even though I know I'm not going to worry about it and ask somebody to read for me unless I'm just wanting a validation more than anything. Hi, Taylor. Um, so for me, I like finding the underlying stuff. So I was really asking a lot about my self concept stuff, and they sort of started showing me little by little. They showed me the example in the bagel store, and if you're late here, you just watch it back. And the example of like looking at all women are bitchy, all women are catty, or it's terrible having only daughters, you need a boy to help you balance out the energy. No, you don't, because energy is energy is energy. So please, if you have all daughters, stop thinking that. They're reflecting your own self concept. So the other thing I noticed too was, so when I put out the information, I get the information back. I just lost my train of thought. Sorry. That happens. Um, we talked about how it perpetuates then by having those belief systems. So for me, figuring out what works for me and then getting rid of it. I'm going to use a really quick example of this. So when you're learning about if you're clairsentient or you're empathic, that's a big word here, but empathic. You're like, I just feel other people's stuff and I'm feeling all the time and it's too hard and it's whatever. I'm going to tell you that I used to feel people's stuff all the time and I couldn't figure out the source of it. When I started understanding that I was feeling like physical ailments on people, I also noticed when I was doing the reading, as soon as they validated it and I got it out, it was gone. So I had in our psychic development circle this week, one of the women said, I felt this terrible stomach ache the whole time. And it was towards the end of it. And I said, okay, so you're a clairsentient. I go, it's not yours. I go, if it's not the person you're reading for, I go, it's probably somebody else's here. We're all connected in the same energy. And then another person goes, oh yeah, I've been having this. And she goes, oh, really? And then I said, so so now I want you to feel into the energy and figure out what it is, blah, blah, blah. And I helped her the step of it. And she goes, and then all of a sudden she goes, oh, as soon as she felt, she goes, I feel better now. Like it was gone. It was gone. That's a block in a sense. That's example of having a block. So for me, I had a fear of flying that developed randomly well after 9/11. And I started asking my guys to show me, and I started having all these dreams. There is some other lifetime that I experienced where I was in an air crash or an aircraft crash. It was some kind of aircraft. It was not an airplane. And as soon as I allowed myself to get to the death point of it, that fear was gone, like immediately. So for me, if I can figure out and understand where that belief system comes from, it seems to just drop out really easily. We're like, I'm like, that's silly. That's just let it go. Let it go. Right. So I've been looking at my self concept. Why do I not feel great about myself? And I found these collective beliefs that are coming up. And so I encourage you when you, especially women here, or if you identify as female, I suppose, right? Um, when you see the collective beliefs come up, know that that's part of your own self concept beliefs. So start reaffirming something new when you hear that. Well, that's not my story. That may be their story, but that's not my story. The real story is all women are amazing. Go ahead, make it a thing. All women are amazing. Women get along really well. Women support each other. Women are strong. Women are the canaries, right? They're not sensitive. They're the ones that go in and they notice the toxic stuff and they're like calling it out, right? They're canaries. Too sensitive. They're not they're not being difficult. They just know what they want and when they want it. I run into a problem of getting called bossy sometimes because I do sometimes forget the social niceties of like, could you please? I'm like, yeah, this needs to get done. Like, I have to stop myself and be like, okay, yeah, because people like this. I don't really care when people, I mean, I hate to say it, but I'm like, okay. I sometimes do miss those social niceties. I hate to say it, like, but it's true. Maybe I'm a bit neurodivergent. Who knows? Um, you honestly don't like that thinking pattern? I'm sorry, I missed what because I was rambling. Um, oh, of the way women think about each other. I just encourage you instead of walking away and thinking like, "Oh, I'm working with a whole bunch of women, someone may be difficult." That's their own stuff. Or it's a light bulb to you to figure out what that little niche is that you need to like grow and heal and release. Um, but for me, that's a technique that really, really works. Does it take time and work? Sure. Does it make you step out of like reactive mode and look at life a little bit more observationally? Sure. But I really enjoy it. And I also think it removes some of the emotional upswings and taking things personally where I'm like, oh, what's that about? That's really interesting. Um, I'm not like, I probably won't ever go, "This is the best way, this is the way it works," because I think that we all learn and grow in different ways, so this is just another way of doing it. I do believe in saying it as I am. I think the law of assumption works a lot better. For me, I thought, like, trying to figure out the Abraham Hicks stuff and, it always just seems so kinda out there, the concept of, like, I've gotta get into this positive mode and be positive. You don't have to be positive all the time. Does it help? Sure, but I've manifested crazy shit just by, like, going, "Huh, let's see if this works," and then there was no emotion behind it, it was just a thought and, like, let it go. Um, does anyone have any questions? Comments, concerns? So for me, again, I just like the idea of observing and figuring out the core. I also this is the way my brain works, right? Um Something came up with money lately where I it's been a little lull for some things, and I'm looking at, well, okay, what's that about? What did I think of? And I went out shopping. I was running some errands, and I needed to get a pair of running shoes. And I thought, well, oh, I don't know. I can afford them. Like it's not even. And I thought I need to get out of that old mindset. So I asked the universe to show me where am I being blocked in money manifestation, and they're starting to show me like these little beliefs of like value and worth in that idea. So I'm sort of focusing on that. Um, it's just interesting. I encourage you to use your intuition that way. So readings and psychic stuff, That's all I'm all about it. I love the spiritual connection, but I also, again, I tell you guys all the time, I'm not using these readings most of the time. I'm not using it for you guys. I mean, I love using it to help you guys out, but I'm using it to really like focus on my life and connecting with my intuition and like using my guides, using they're not really out there. Yeah, using my GPS to like navigate better and more clearly. So I'm always enjoying updating my maps so that they're more efficient and more clear. And I encourage you to do that too. And this is just one way to do that. Figure out the efficiency for manifesting. And it might take a little bit more time to get used to this technique of like throwing out there to your guides and asking them for clarity, um, and understanding where the core beliefs come from. But literally, if you can snip that, then they're gone, and you're not going, "Why am I dropping back into not feeling settled? Why am I dropping into not having this self concept that's healed?" If you find the core and you heal the core, it is about reprogramming, but it's also about finding the core and like digging that out. Because sometimes if you haven't, you'll have to keep updating and keep programming and keep going back with the affirmations. I hope this was helpful. If you want a private reading, you can go to my website, which is below. The links are below for Instagram, all of that stuff. I'm just going to be chatting. Maybe a lot of people show up, maybe you don't, but I just am feeling really guided to kind of give these talks. I hope they're clear for you. If you're uncertain about something, please ask a question. I do like responding to you guys. Um, if you're, I'm thinking about adding a service where I do an hour reading, and the first half hour is like me psychic connecting in with you, and the next is like the second half hour will be intuitively coaching you through manifesting and how to shift it. If Because sometimes when you get readings, I know I tell you this with readings, it's not set in stone. You can manifest something differently, and then I'll have like separate readings where you can do, just the straight psychic stuff, or the way I normally do them. I'm going to offer some different options in doing things because I do see intuitively. I had a client friend who asked me about, she had set an intention for manifesting weight loss and she was doing great. And all of a sudden she's kind of at this plateau. And what was it? Was she going to make her weight loss? She just wanted to know if she was going to. And I said, yeah. And here's what I think is going on and why it's plateaued. And I got this, it's a manifesting thing, it's a block. Um, that she has this idea that she doesn't deserve to lose the weight because she already is in a great shape and she should have a better positive body image. And I said, look, you love yourself, you honor yourself, you respect yourself, and it's okay to want your body to be the healthiest possible or to be in the best shape possible. That's not ego driven. That's not being um, superficial to want that. That's okay to want that too. So that's sort of what I like looking at, where you can marry the psychic stuff and the manifesting stuff. It doesn't have to be this or that. Or if you're doing manifesting, you should never go to a tarot reader or a psychic reader because that's bad, 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 bad. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. It can be actually really beneficial to help you. So I hope you guys are having a great day. Enjoy your weekend. It's supposed to be pretty here, I think. I think the last time I looked at the weather, it was. Um, so I will see you guys Sunday for my live with the psychic readings. If you are not subscribed to my email, you should go to my website and do that. So then you get the once a week email, and you can sign up for the the question list for Sundays early. I hope you have a great one. I'll talk to you later. Bye.